They said I gave up. That I walked away from something important to chase a pipe dream. Eventually, the questions stopped, and the rumors took over. People started rewriting my story without ever asking for the truth. But the truth? It doesn't shout. It waits. It watches. And when it speaks, if you're still listening, it'll knock the wind right out of you. If you're someone who believes in quiet strength, in stories that build slowly but land like a punch to the gut, stick around. This one's for you. Hit that subscribe button, because sometimes, the most powerful journeys are the ones nobody saw coming. I'm Harper Lane. I'm 31. I live alone in a tiny walk-up above a dusty old comic shop in Portland. I brew my own coffee. I pay my own rent. And somehow, I'm still the family embarrassment. I was supposed to be the overachiever, the future surgeon, the one who made everyone proud, until I wasn't. I dropped out of med school during my second year. No dramatic scandal. No meltdown. Just good old-fashioned burnout. The kind that hollows you out so quietly, no one notices you're fading. I still showed up for Thanksgiving. I still smiled in family photos. But I was done. My dad didn't call me for months. My mom wept into a dish towel and told everyone I was on a wellness break. My younger brother, Caleb, slid right into the role of family favorite. Business degree, corporate gig, shiny ring from a girl who sends thank you cards and bakes her own bread. Meanwhile, I was teaching basic tech skills to seniors around my neighborhood. Not for glory. For a little cash. For my own sanity. For something that made the hours feel like they mattered. At first, it felt like I'd hit rock bottom. But eventually, it started to feel like I'd found something real. It began with coffee shop meetups, just me and one person at a time. Then came library workshops. Then small online classes. Eventually, I built the first version of a platform I called Silverlink. The idea was simple: help folks over 60 navigate a digital world that's constantly trying to leave them behind. We covered the basics: email, FaceTime, online safety, even spotting fake headlines before they spread like wildfire on social media. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't some billion-dollar startup. But it worked. That same week, I hopped on a video call with a woman named Mrs. Farnell. She was 84, had 2 knee replacements, and more sass than a reality show reunion. It took us nearly an hour to get her Zoom mic working. She called me "hon" and muttered, "This thing's cursed." But when it finally clicked and her son's face popped up, he lives 4 states away, she clapped her hand to her mouth and whispered, "You brought my boy into my living room." Moments like that don't make it to the front page. But they change everything. And that's why I built Silverlink. Within 3 years, we had over 75,000 users, a handful of statewide partnerships, and a wait list of nonprofits begging us to expand into their communities. We were creating real change, one tutorial at a time. But to my family? I was just running some tech thing online. Not once did they ask how it was going. Not once did they say they were proud. In their eyes, I'd veered off the golden road and wandered into the wilderness. Didn't matter that I'd paved that new path with my own 2 hands and lit the way for others. Last month, at Sunday dinner, my mom passed the green beans and said to Caleb's fiancé, "He's always been the driven one." "Harper," she added, glancing at me like I was a stray cat. "She's more of a free spirit." I smiled, sliced my carrots, said nothing. Because that's what family flops do. We stay quiet. We smile. We fade. But something was about to shift. It would all start with a name I hadn't heard in forever, spoken by someone who had no idea who I really was. Yet, the irony was always brutal. I'd built a platform that made thousands of strangers feel seen. Yet I couldn't get my own parents to ask me a single honest question. Meanwhile at Silverlink, we were rolling out a major redesign, simplifying the sign-up flow so even folks who'd never touched a keyboard could use it with ease. I just finished a test session with a 76-year-old man who burst into tears when he FaceTimed his granddaughter for the first time. "She thought I was gone," he kept saying. Now she can see I'm still here. That moment sparked something in me deeper than any investment pitch ever had. But when I shared it over pot roast the next Sunday, my dad just grunted and said, "So, teaching old folks how to click buttons, huh? Real noble work, right?" Caleb laughed under his breath. I let it roll off. They had no clue that those button lessons had evolved into a fully integrated digital education platform. It was designed from the ground up for accessibility, everything from voice navigation to compatibility with screen readers and motor skill tools. Not exactly a side hobby. They didn't know our newsletter had a nearly 80% open rate, that we'd been invited to pilot our services in multiple government-funded community hubs, or that the thing I built from scratch was helping more people in a single week than most of their quarterly strategy meetings ever would. And honestly, I never told them. When people slap a label like failure on you, you either break yourself trying to tear it off, or you quietly keep building until it outgrows their opinion. 2 weeks before Caleb's engagement party, I got a notification in my inbox. Subject line, Claire C., testimonial submission, Claire, as in Caleb's fiancée. I clicked that it was a 90-second video, sent in through our Stories That Shine campaign, where users and their families could share how Elderglow had touched their lives. In the clip, Claire sat beside a gentle-looking older woman with silver curls and kind eyes. "This is my grandma, Judith," she said softly. "She lost my grandpa last year, and it was really hard. But thanks to Elderglow, she's been able to stay in touch with all of us. She FaceTimes weekly, learned how to shop online. She even sends gifts in the family chat. It gave her her confidence back. And it gave us her back." I froze. Claire had no clue I was behind the platform. She didn't connect my name. She just knew it had helped someone she loved. That I watched that video 3 times. At the end, her grandmother looked straight at the camera and said, "Thank you, Harper. You helped me feel human again." That night, my mom called, "Don't forget, engagement dinner's this Saturday. We want everything perfect." "I'm not sure if I should come," I said. "Why wouldn't you?" She shot back, "Way too fast." "I don't know, doesn't feel like I fit." A beat of silence. Then, "Just don't go on too long about your website thing, okay? Claire's family is very professional. Ivy League and all." I almost laughed. Got it. No talk of tech. No talk of old ladies clicking buttons. She didn't catch the sarcasm. I hung up and stared out at the Portland skyline, the windows smeared with drizzle. My mother had no idea that her future daughter-in-law had publicly thanked me for helping her grandma reconnect with the world. And I had zero plans of bringing it up, not yet. Some truths are best left to reveal themselves. The week of the party, I ignored the RSVP card on my fridge. They expected me to come, smile, fade into the wallpaper like I always had. I told myself if I went, it would be for Claire. For Judith. For the woman who said I helped her feel alive again, not for my family. At a cousin's cookout the weekend before the event, someone turned to me with a plastic cup in hand and asked, "Still messing around with that little internet project?" I smiled. Nodded. Bit my tongue. My mom was standing right next to me and said nothing. Didn't jump in to say I had a full team, funding, users across the state. She just offered them more corn salad while I stood there holding a paper plate, pretending I didn't feel 2 inches tall. Never again. Not for them. Meanwhile, back at the office, things were moving fast. We just inked a partnership with the Oregon State Library System. 12 rural branches were going to pilot Elderglow. Places where broadband was spottier than the cows were. That kind of thing mattered. That kind of thing changed lives, but back home? My mom was fussing over napkin shades and sending me links to pastel dresses, no black. No pantsuits. Something feminine this time. I stared at that email like it had fangs. Control was her thing, especially when it came to women who refused to be molded. That Friday, the day before the party, I stopped by a local cafe to meet our newest intern. Her name was Jamie. 19 years old. Sharp as hell. She asked thoughtful, fast-paced questions about UX design for older adults, her eyes lit with ideas. While Jamie and I were deep in conversation, a woman at the next table leaned over with a hesitant smile. Sorry to interrupt, but are you Harper Lane? From Elderglow? I blinked. Yeah, that's me. Oh wow, she said, practically glowing. My dad's obsessed with your platform. He sends me memes now. Actual memes. I didn't even know he knew what a meme was. Jamie looked at me like I'd just revealed I could fly. You never mention people recognize you. They usually don't, I replied, but that wasn't entirely true anymore. It had started. A slow burn, more emails, more user videos, a podcast invitation, a few features tucked quietly into niche tech newsletters. Outside my family's narrow tunnel vision, something real was building. I wasn't fading. I was starting to emerge. That night, I couldn't sleep. Claire's video kept looping in my mind, the tenderness in her voice when she spoke about her grandmother, the gratitude in her eyes. She didn't know me personally, but she believed in something I created. Something born from failure, exhaustion, and stubborn reinvention. That belief was clean. Earned. Unshakable. Unlike the approval I kept chasing from people who only saw what I wasn't. At 3 a.m, I got out of bed and opened my closet. No black. No boxy blazer. I picked a dark emerald dress, sleeveless, minimal, and mine. Quiet confidence, stitched into every seam. I slid Claire's testimonial onto a USB drive, not to show, just to carry. A reminder that sometimes the ripples we start reach far off shores, touching people we'll never meet and calling back those who thought we were lost. The restaurant was all sleek marble and intentional shadows, the kind of place where the butter had its own bio and the waitstaff whispered. I arrived 10 minutes early. I always do that. Why Mom's face froze for a half second when she saw me. Oh, you came. You invited me, I said calmly. Well, good. I'm glad. She wasn't. I could read it in the way her smile strained, the quick glance down at my dress like it was just a little too assertive. I took a seat at the end of the long table, out of the way, just the way they preferred. Caleb and Claire swept in 15 minutes later, glowing and giddy. Claire hugged everyone, including me, with that warm, all-embracing energy she had. She didn't recognize me, not yet. Not like that. The evening blurred with speeches and champagne. Caleb's boss made some statement that sounded like it belonged in a mutual fund commercial. Claire's dad talked about roots and reputation. I smiled and nodded, invisible again. Until dessert, Claire leaned over and asked casually, Hey Harper, what do you do again? Just like that, the air around the table shifted. Why Mom sat up a little straighter. I took a sip of water, calm. I run a digital education platform for older adults. Like online classes? More like personalized tech systems. We specialize in accessibility, screen readers, voice input, adaptive navigation for folks who didn't grow up online. Claire tilted her head. Wait. Elderglow? She stared. Eyes wide. No. No way. You're Elderglow? I gave a small nod. I founded it. Her hand flew to her mouth. She turned to Caleb, then back to me. You're the Harper Lane? The one from the Stories That Shine campaign? Now the entire table was frozen. No one even reached for their wine. My grandma, Judith, she used Elderglow every day until she passed. You helped her video call all of us, every single Sunday. You gave us time with her we didn't think we'd get back. I submitted a story to your campaign. I smiled softly. I remember. I watched it. It meant a lot. Claire stood up. Why didn't you say anything? I shrugged. Didn't feel like the moment. She turned toward the table. You don't understand. This woman built a national program. From the ground up. She's been featured on Forbes, NPR, she's transforming lives every day. And she's sitting here like no one in this room ever bothered to ask. Aunt Celeste gasped. Uncle Mark cleared his throat awkwardly. Why Dad stared into his wine like it had the answers. Why Mom opened her mouth, and closed it again. Claire kept going, her voice caught between disbelief and something gentler. I can't believe I'm meeting you. You helped us. My grandma never once called herself smart until she started using your site. She slowly sat back down, still wide-eyed, like she'd just brushed up against something holy. Caleb leaned toward me, brow furrowed. I had no idea. You never asked, I said, calm and steady. The silence that followed wasn't sharp this time. It wasn't judgment. It was reverence. The rest of the night passed in a different kind of glow. A few guests leaned in, asked quiet questions. Toasts that used to pass over me suddenly included Harper's incredible work. My mom didn't say much. She just sat still, like she was trying to rewrite the story in her head in real time. And for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't feel like an afterthought. I felt like the center, not because I demanded it. Not because I forced it, but because the truth had finally walked in, on its own, and decided to stay. The next morning, I woke up with a strange peace in my chest. Not pride. Not vengeance. Something quieter. Like the soft click of a door closing without the drama of a slam. My phone buzzed out a message from Caleb. I'm sorry I never asked. No fluff. No emojis. No defenses. I stared at the screen, then turned it face down on my nightstand. I didn't need to respond. Not yet. Later, my mom called. Twice. I let them both go to voicemail, not out of anger, but because I didn't want to give her the chance to dilute it. Not this time. Not after all it took to stand still in my own light. That evening, I walked down to the waterfront. The air carried salt and cedar and something weightless. Like the sky itself had exhaled. The world felt paused, as if something profound had cracked open and light was still deciding how much to spill. And that I thought of Claire's face, the awe in it, not for status, not for hype, but for meaning. And I thought of all the years I'd spent shrinking, convinced their silence was proof I didn't matter, but now I knew better. 2 days later, a letter came. Actual paper. My mother's handwriting. Dear Harper, I watched the video Claire sent. I cried, not because I didn't know what you'd built, but because I realized I never cared enough to ask. I was so caught up in what you walked away from, I never noticed what you were walking toward. You did something no one in this family ever dared. You failed. And then you kept going, and through that, you helped people find their voices again, including me. Love. Mommy read it 3 times. Then folded it carefully and placed it next to my desk, not framed. Not spotlighted, just kept, because I didn't need proof on the wall that I was living it. That weekend, I gave the closing talk at a community tech meetup. No lights, no media. Just 60 people in folding chairs, holding pens and potential. That I told them the truth. I was never supposed to be here. I was supposed to be someone else. But life had other plans. And eventually, I stopped fighting them. When the room stood to applaud, I didn't cry, but I did smile, the kind that settles deep in your bones. The kind that says, I made it. And I didn't ask for permission. 3 months later, Claire invited me to lunch. Not as Caleb's sister. As Harper. As the woman who built something out of ashes and dared to name it beautiful. We met at a sun-washed cafe in the heart of Pinewood. She was already there, smiling, a half-filled notebook beside her cup. I've been thinking, she said, voice low and excited. There's this foundation I work with. They support mission-driven startups, especially ones led by women, Claire said, sliding her notebook across the table. I showed them your work. Inside were names, ideas, possible partnerships. Notes scrawled in her neat handwriting, circles around funding models and outreach programs. If you're ready to scale, she said, I think we can help. I didn't even blink. You don't owe me anything. Claire shook her head. This isn't about owing. It's about believing. You gave my grandma something I couldn't. I just want to see how far your light can go. And for once, I let someone believe in me, without retreating, without bracing for the catch. That summer, we launched Elderglow's first nationwide initiative. We called it Digital Dignity, workshops in public libraries. Training sessions in senior centers. Free programs for veterans and rural communities. By the end of the season, we'd reached 250,000 users. One morning, I opened an email from a 92-year-old in Montana. Your platform helped me apply for a passport online. I'm flying next month to meet my great-granddaughter. Never been on a plane before. Thank you for the first step. I sat with that for a long time, not as validation, but as a quiet reminder, every small step matters. Every unseen ripple still moves water. At Caleb and Claire's wedding, I wore a navy jumpsuit. No one flinched. No sidelong glances. Why Mom introduced me as, this is my daughter, Harper. She runs a national nonprofit. It wasn't the perfect description, but it was something. Later, with a glass of wine in her hand and something real in her eyes, she pulled me aside. You always did your own thing, she said. I used to think that meant you were lost. Now I see you were just ahead of us. We didn't hug. But we stood beside each other, longer than ever before. And that felt like enough. That night, I stood under a string of fairy lights, watching strangers twirl into laughter. Caleb came over, hands stuffed in his pockets, half grin on his face. Amanda said you're speaking at Google next month. That true? Yep. You gonna brag about being my sister? He asked. I laughed. You gonna brag about being mine? He grinned. The past, so heavy for so long, finally loosened its grip. 2 weeks later, I mailed them a small box. Inside, a handwritten note and a USB drive. On that drive? A custom-built version of Elderglow, designed specifically for the assisted living home where Claire's grandmother had spent her final years. Lifetime access. No fees. Personalized onboarding. Full support. No press release. No credit. Just a note. Some connections outlive misunderstanding. Thank you for helping her find her voice. Claire called the next morning. She didn't speak right away. She just breathed, voice soft with tears. You didn't have to. I know, I said gently. That's why I did. Back home, I printed out a quote and taped it to my fridge. They'll call it failure until the day they ask how you did. No name. No bitterness. Just the truth. And below it, my own reflection, quiet, steady, smiling, because this time, the light wasn't coming from anyone else. It was mine. Always had been. Where are you reading from today? I'd love to know what part of the world you're in, and whether any part of this story stirred something in you. Drop a comment. Share a thought. You never know who might need your words right now. And if this story landed for you, if you believe in quiet victories, real growth, and stories that matter, subscribe. There's so much more to come, and I'd be honored to share it with you. Thanks, truly, for being here. Until next time, stay rooted. Stay kind. And remember, your story's still unfolding.